Good morning again. The lesson that we are going to cover today is titled Camera Support. Uh, when you're taking a photograph, I don't care how steady you think your hands might be, your hands will always shake. I don't care if you have arms of steel, very muscular arms, very steady arms. Chances are they will shake at least a little bit. And that shaking of your hands and the camera does not traduce to a good image. It does not translate as a good image, especially if you're recording motion. If you're recording a movie, then it's uglier. That's why photographers use something called camera support. As you can see there, you have two photographers. They are using cameras, but the cameras are stabilized by two different devices. In this case, these devices are called tripods because they have three legs. So, today we're going to discuss the different camera support systems that exist. And when we use the phrase camera support, most people usually think only of the true and trusted tripod, and for a good reason, right? Because that's the most common one, and they provide great results. However, we have a lot more than just tripods. Let's look at some of these support systems. They include dollies, they include sliders, they include jibs, they include cranes, they include stabilizers, they include helmet mounts, and they include car mounts. So this is one of those things that if you're seriously into recording films or photography, you need to invest money on stabilizing systems. You need to. Let's talk about the dolly. There's a picture of a dolly right there. A dolly allows a camera a very fluid way to get closer to the subject. In its most basic form, a dolly is simply a platform of wheels attached to a track, like a train track. And I have one. If we were in the classroom right now, we'll be showing it to you. I bought the cheapest one I could find. It cost us a few $100s, and they are just tubes and pieces of slats of plastic that hold them together, and a huge um, platform made of steel with wheels. The wheels look like the type of wheels that you see in a skateboard. And when you put that platform on top of those tracks, it moves like butter. It's like a cloud. It's wonderful the way it moves with such a smooth fluidity. And if you want to make one of those shots where you're zooming into an object, the dolly is the way to go. If you try to do that handheld, it's not gonna look good. You might have some type of stabilizer that can help you, but depending on the quality of the type of stabilizer, handheld stabilizer that you're using, it's not going to look as good as a dolly. Dollies are very old, um, but they are fantastic. So that's one of the things that we use in cinematography. Here you have another example of what you can do with a dolly. You can make it curved and you can make a very interesting shot where you're recording someone. Guys, remember that when you're shooting, very few times should the camera be still. You have to always make the shot like interesting and move your camera to get some interesting shot, get added some motion to keep the eye of the viewer busy. If you just put the camera there and it's not doing anything, and you're not a very good actor, it's going to be very boring. Usually, that type of very static shot where the camera is not moving is done with someone or a subject that is very interesting for a person to look at. So, are there moments where the camera should be still? Yes. Are there moments when the camera should be moving? Yes. And one of the things that you have to do is try to always excite the vision of the viewer. So one of the tools that allows you to do that with wonderful fluid shots is the dolly. Another tool that is used, another stabilizer is I'm gonna skip this, but you need to watch the video that is connected to this, right? It's in my website. The other support system is the slider. And the slider is like a miniature dolly. The dolly can be several feet long. A slider is usually smaller. You have an example there. There's sometimes 24 inches or up to 48 inches long. If it's more than 48 inches, then you should get yourself a dolly because why use a slider if you need to move your camera longer? The slider is a camera support and it's limited in its use, but it's also perfect for short distances. And there are things that you should do with a slider that it will be easier to do with a slider than to do with a dolly because you have to set up the dolly, you have to build it. That's not something that you leave there. It's a long track, and when you're going to use it, you have to go to the work of connecting it and building the track and then separating the pieces and putting them back away again without making sure that you're not losing a single bolt. So it's a lot of work to set up a shot with a dolly. With a slider, it's relatively easy. So a slider is one alternative that you can use for shorter movement, shorter distances. The jib, a jib is something I have. A jib is like a miniature crane. There's one here mounted on the top of a car, but it allows you to make very dramatic shots. And a jib is basically a boom of various lengths that you attach to a tripod. The camera attached to the long end of the arm, and then you have the short end holding a counterbalancing weight. You have to put weights at the end because the longer away you put an object, the heavier it becomes for some reason. It's physics, right? So if I have a 8-pound camera and I don't have a counterbalance here, it's going to always be in the floor. So I have to put weights, which I have, and you put weights, and it's like a seesaw, basically. You know what a seesaw is? How many of you have played in a seesaw in a park? Okay, well, think of a jib that way. You know the seesaw is not going to work if you don't have counterweight. That's why you need two people. One person at one end, one person at the other. Well, the jib is that way. You put the camera at one end, but you need a counterbalance at the other side so it can move. And it's another wonderful uh, tool to use. I have one. I've used it to make some dramatic shots. Also, they look beautiful, especially when you want to reveal something and the camera raises like that. It looks great. I love using it. Yes, go ahead. In a truck or a caravan of trucks. Moving around that equipment is large, it's heavy. Look at this one, for example. Look here. This one is even bigger. This is connected to a truck, sir. This is connected to a truck, to a vehicle. This is a crane. Think in the jib that I just mentioned. Well, this is much larger. It's like a jib, but it's much larger. You can see that arm there. It's very long, and at the end there's a camera that is very heavy. It's probably weighing over 100 pounds, and that's connected to a truck. Uh, this is from behind the scenes from a movie called Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and this was taken as a desert, as you said, in Tunisia. That's in Africa, and you can imagine that caravan of vehicles carrying all the type of equipment that you need to shoot a movie. So, you know what a cherry picker is? You seen when you see these guys that work for the electricity company when they're up there working on the cables, on the electrical cables? Well, it's basically the same thing. But instead of having like a cherry picker, which is an arm that folds with a basket inside, and you know that the person goes inside the basket, instead of having that, this truck has a long arm where you attach the camera and someone operates it. And that's a huge vehicle. You're not seeing it in this picture, um, But I'm sure that if you go to the internet, you can find footage of those. There's a video here of one of the greatest crane shots ever made. It's a very long shot. It is continuous, and you need to watch this video, guys. It's part of the class to watch this video. It's impressive. It's from a movie called Touch of Evil from the 1950s, and it's a long shot because it's shot. It's lengthy. There are no cuts there, and that crane moves in an incredible way. Everything moves with such synchronization that is impressive. It's very impressive. So I recommend that you see that video. You have to watch it. Another type of rig that is very popular today is the stabilizer, or called a Steadicam, that you attach to the body. This has something called gimbals, which stabilize the shot, and you can run around. Have you ever wondered how they make those shots? Or people that are running around in the street and the camera is like following them? Usually it's this, a guy running around with one of those. This is crazy expensive. This is very expensive. If you have the opportunity to record someone who is running without a stabilizer, try it. What you're going to have is something that goes like that. That's what you're going to see. So in a movie, you need something. In a movie, you see everything so perfectly shot. You don't see the camera shaking or anything like that. You need a stabilizer like this one, a Steadicam. And Steadicams have been around for a while, but the most modern ones are. This is one of the old ones, the old-fashioned ones. But the first one that you saw is more modern. But they are very expensive, and for a reason. They are a great thing to have. I don't have one of those. I would love to have one of those. There's also the helmet mount. They are used for small cameras like the GoPro cameras, and they are very versatile. They allow you to shoot footage of stuff you could not normally do with another type of stabilizer. These allow a great level of immersion. So if you're like swimming underwater, you're surfing, you're doing any type of interesting physical activity, and you're carrying a GoPro camera and a helmet, you're gonna get shots that are like point of view shots, perspective shots, where it immerses the viewer and makes them feel like they are actually the ones who are carrying out this activity. So it's a great thing to have. If you have a GoPro, you get a camera mount, and this is only for certain particular shots. Okay, you don't use this for every type of shot, but it's a great stabilizer to have. I don't have one of those. And they are used for all kinds of physical activities, from jumping from a parachute to parasailing to skateboarding. They are great. The car mount is the type of stabilizer that you put in a car. Sometimes you wonder, how do they make that shot of that person's driving? Well, that's how they make it. Look at where they place the camera, and when he's driving around, that's from a James Bond movie called "The World Is Not Enough." And when they show the driver driving, well, there's a camera. It's on the hood. It's very well connected and very well secured. You don't want that camera falling off, right? Because the camera is very expensive. And basically, that's what we have for you today. There's a reshoot activity. It's reshoot. It is not portfolio, which means that you're going to send it how? How are you going to send this? To the LMS. To the LMS, yeah. So, guys, do you have any questions before I leave? Because I know you got to go.